Well, good afternoon, good evening, good morning. Thanks again for watching and joining us on this beautiful sunny day in Vancouver. It's nice and warm out, almost too hot, but I know all of North America is like that right now. So today is Thursday, July the 5th. And, for a lot of, there wasn't really anything happening yesterday in the world of hockey. Today, there's a few more things that happened as well. The Vancouver Canucks are playing their one of the prospects games tonight at Rogers Arena down in Vancouver. We're really looking forward to that. Again, this is B&B Hockey Talk. My name's Aaron Bloxel with my co-host here, Mr. Matthew Balzer. And Matthew, what are we going to be talking about today?
Today we'll be talking about the potential Erik Karlsson trade that's edging closer and closer. The Shea Weber injury, another big blow to the Montreal Canadiens, and then the remaining unrestricted free agents and salary arbitration to all the restricted free agents guys that have filed salary arbitration.
That's awesome. I'm really looking forward to this. Let's start off with the possibilities of Erik Karlsson. It's looking more and more now like Ottawa is going to have to move him, that he doesn't want to go back. What's the latest there? What teams have you heard that are in the running, and where do you see him potentially going?
So it had been reported yesterday. The teams that had called were Dallas Stars, San Jose Sharks, Vegas Golden Knights, the Columbus Blue Jackets, New York Islanders, New York Rangers, and the Tampa Bay Lightning. I think I saw Darren Dreger just tweeted just a little bit ago that the Tampa Bay Lightning seem to be the front runners for Carlson. But the way things will go, it'd have to be a three-way trade, and he had brought up the New York Rangers being part of that three-way trade. Because Tampa would have to dump salary, so possibly a guy like Ryan Callahan would be moved to either Ottawa or the Rangers, and Carlson would be going to Tampa Bay, which would put Tampa Bay over the top, depending on what else they'd have to give up. But Tampa Bay has the prospects, they have the picks and everything to go all in and go for Carlson.
That would be absolutely scary, I think, if he ends up in Tampa Bay. Imagine, he's a right-handed shot. Victor Hedman's a left-handed shot. Those two guys, with the amount of minutes they log, I would think you'd pair them separately, but then put them together on the power play or something like that. It would just be unbelievable to if that happens. I can't imagine the talent they can put on the ice for a power play. That's for sure.
Oh yeah, it's just like you got guys like you got Kucherov, you got Stamkos, and then that's not even bringing up their second line with Palat, Point, and Johnson. It's just an unbelievable situation. I think the other team that had brought up was the Dallas Stars, that they were looking at him. I saw that the asking price though is that Ottawa wanted Miro Heiskanen, who was the third overall pick by Dallas a couple years ago. But Dallas doesn't look like they want to give him up. So that might be tough there. But if Dallas, if they do end up getting Carlson, they can bring him back and pair him back with Mark Mathot, who they picked up last offseason.
Yeah, and I did hear earlier today or late yesterday that Erik Karlsson, just moving him alone, I heard a lot of the teams weren't offering a whole lot because of the situation in Ottawa, and that, it's possible they could get him on the cheap. I don't see that happening. I think Ottawa would rather hold on to him and try to convince him to play. But, there's several. I know Las Vegas had really pushed for him really hard at the trade deadline. I see that there would be a fit there. I think the asking price was Cody Glass and more, and Vegas didn't want to part with Cody Glass. There's a lot of moving components to trades nowadays, as you know, with salary cap and prospects and everything. So, where do you want to see him?
Oof. Well, as I brought Tampa Bay would be a great fit. I'd love to see him. I think Victor Hedman's one of my favorite defensemen in NHL to watch. So to have those two Swedes together, that team would just be so much fun to watch.
That'd be absolutely ridiculous, like we said. And then, of course, big news today in the NHL with Montreal Canadiens defenseman Shea Weber going down to knee surgery. It's reported he's not going to be back until late December. Man, that Weber for Subban trade is starting to look like a disaster for Montreal. And you can't possibly replace a guy like that. You know, what do you think the fans, or what do you think the team in Montreal is looking to do to replace him or to fill that void while he gets healthy?
I know, yeah, it will be tough to fill. I think they'll be looking at a lot of younger defensemen. Noah Juleson, who got called up late to the end of the year and actually played very well. Will be one of the big names, I'd say. Also, Victor Mete, who had a really good year last year with Montreal, and then of course played for Canada at the World Juniors. Are two young guys, but still there isn't a whole lot there for Montreal on that back end. Because if you're talking about like Jeff Petrie, he's probably going to be your best defenseman to start the year. They're going to have problems, especially when you're wanting to help Carey Price out next year. If they're basically coming back with that same decor but minus Shea Weber again, it's going to be tough.
It is definitely Montreal. I got a feel for them. You know, they trade Subban because of potential issues in the dressing room. They lose Markov to retirement, and then they trade Sergachev to Tampa Bay, of course, for Jonathan Drouin, who you know, it almost looks like a failed experiment at center there. Looks like more and more he's going to be playing the wing, but you gotta feel for that decor in front of Carey Price. As good as Carey Price is, I still think you need to put something in front of him. But yeah, so our next topic that we were going to touch on today is the available unrestricted free agents that are still remaining. I've got a huge list in front of me here. I saw that there was a few signings today, though, so maybe touch on the ones that you saw and some of the people that are still available and where you think they might end up.
All right, so there were two signings today. Anthony Duclair going to the Columbus Blue Jackets on a 1-year deal, but for only $650K, which is a great signing for Columbus to experiment with Duclair, who everybody's been looking for him to get back to that 20-goal, 50-point season that he had earlier in his career, but only being 22 years old and with the lineup that Columbus has there, it's great potential there for him to get back on track. And one other minor signing was Andre Suster going from Tampa Bay to Anaheim. This guy's big, like 6'8", I think, defenseman, right-handed. So he'll help fill the void where Kevin Bieksa was on Anaheim's back end. And then a couple of restricted free agents were re-signed today. Boone Jenner with Columbus. I think it was a 4-year, $3.75 million cap hit signed. And with Detroit, Andreas Anthony, who had held out last year, Detroit was able to re-sign him to a 2-year deal with worth $6 million.
Yeah, I saw a couple minor other signings as well. St. Louis picked up Jordan Nolan, who, as you know, when he was with Los Angeles, was a bit of a beast through their Stanley Cup run. There's more of a depth signing for them, and Brad Richardson returns to the desert. You know, they've got a lot of loyalty to him. He's been there for quite a while. They signed him to another 2-year deal. But of the people that are still unrestricted, I know those restricted free agents were pretty good signings today, just because I didn't think Athena would re-sign in Detroit. Just there might have been some bad blood there from his holdout. but he was able to get a deal done. But of the unrestricted free agents still available, let's start with Pat Maroon. I think he's probably the number one. I know he's number one on TSN's list. I don't know if he's necessarily number one on my list, but where do you see him ending up?
With Maroon, I think. Well, I think there had been rumors like St. Louis would be an interesting fit. Just the way that St. Louis does play, they're big. They usually play a big physical game. Though St. Louis does have a lot of restricted free agents that they still have to sign, so I'm not sure money wise how that would work. Otherwise, let's see. Well, the Sharks would be another interesting spot that I'd like to see because they still have a lot of salary cap room and beefing up on the wings. If you got Evander Kane and Maroon and Hurdle playing on the left wing, that would look really good.
I know Maroon is a big body and he's hard to play against. I saw rumors that he's looking at Canadian teams. Calgary might be a fit just because of his physical play, but it'll be interesting to see where he decides to go. I know there's still a lot of interest in him. Let's talk about some of the UFA defensemen that are available. Some of the ones that stand out to me, obviously, Stanley Cup champion Brooks Orpik. There was rumor that once Colorado bought him out, that Washington might re-sign him, but have not yet. Ex-Canuck Dan Hamhuis, another ex-Canuck, Lucas Abiza, Tobias Enstrom, Alexei Emelin. Those are just to name a few defensemen. Do you see any of these guys signing anywhere for a 1 or 2 year deal? Or do you think maybe Father Time's caught up with some of them?
Yeah, with Bieksa, it's really he really struggled with Anaheim last year. I think he'd still be good on a bottom pairing, maybe on a good team. But I wouldn't be surprised if as soon as September comes around, he doesn't have a team. I think the big names. I think Hamhuis will end up somewhere. He's still really good and can help a team out. For teams looking at physical defensemen like Alexei Emelin, I mean, he's probably still, I believe, like in his mid-20s or getting up there, somewhere around there. I think he would be good. Solid player. And another guy that you didn't bring up that I look at is Dylan DeMello, who was played with the Sharks last year. Young defenseman. I was surprised that the Sharks didn't qualify him, but because he did have a good season, getting 20 points in about 60-something games, and a right-handed defenseman, which is rare to get. That would be another name I think teams would be interested in.
Yeah, and I think he's still young. I think I saw on the list that he's 25 years old still. For me, Tobias Enstrom, I know the way his season ended in Winnipeg, it doesn't sound like he's coming back there. He's also just in his early 30s. Made well over he was around $5.5 million a season last year. Do you see another team picking him up, or do you think he might take off to the KHL?
I think Enstrom still has a lot to give. He has had injury problems though over the past few years. And talk about an interesting player. I think earlier in his career he was about like a 50 point defenseman, and then he basically has reversed his role into more of a defensive defenseman. But I know he's a bit on the smaller side, but I think he'd still be a good pickup to go around the league. I think to go with a couple of goalies that are still out there. I know there's been like a huge goalie carousel going around, so there aren't too many openings. But two names that I'll throw out there is Kari Lehtinen, and Steve Mason would be the other one. Kari Lehtinen, I think he can still be a good 1B for a team. He's a streaky goalie, but and he is a good goalie. If your number one goes down, that he can step up and play for a good stretch. And and then with Mason, it is a bit more of a risky pickup if somebody were to sign him. With so many injuries last year and the rough start basically in Winnipeg, it would be interesting to see if somebody would pick him up. I know Washington still needs a backup goalie. I think all they have is Holtby, and then unless they're looking at one of their goalie prospects to back them up next year, I think one of those two guys would be a good fit in Washington, I think.
Yeah, Andre Pavlik as well is available. I don't necessarily see him signing on anywhere, and potentially KHL for him. I do think Kerry Lettinen will sign. I'm not sure with who yet. He still has some hockey left to be played in him, but I know he was just hit or miss in Dallas, and with Ben Bishop there now, it's not as much playing time for him. But let's talk about some of the UFA forwards that are still available. And, some of them might be getting on in age. I've got Scott Hartnell, Mark Letestu, Antoine Vermette, Daniel Winnick, Scotty Upshaw, Tommy Wingles, Nick Shore, and then, of course, Vancouver Canuck, UC Jokinen. Some of these guys are still in their early 30s, but others like Hartnell are, in definitely, 37, 38 years old. Do you see any of these guys getting picked up, or do you think the end of the road is around for some of them?
I know, yeah, it is tough to judge, because I think more and more teams are going away from those. As soon as you start getting into your mid to late 30s, teams start to dump these guys. But I think a lot of those guys are still good for your bottom six. That can help out, especially the centermen. You can never get enough center depth. So the guys like Letestu and Vermette and guys would be good for teams in their bottom six. I think the other big name, which he's still judging his future, is Rick Nash. Nobody knows where or how long it will take for him if he's going to retire or take the year off. But yeah, and especially with him saying that that he's not sure he's going to play, teams could potentially, if he is going to play, get him on a cheaper deal, knowing his health and stuff, that they could get him on a cheaper deal.
Of course, Andre Vermette had that big suspension last year for his chopping the linesman after after a face-off. I think guys like Tommy Wingles, Nick Shore still have a place in this league. Letestu, like you said, Letestu's great on the power play with being a right-handed shot on the left side. I can see some teams picking them up. I think UC Jokinen, even the way Daniel Winnick plays, I don't know if he's going to be if there's going to be a room for a guy like him anymore. And it's because you're right. A lot of these teams are going with a lot of youth, and we talked yesterday about a lot of the Canucks prospects and youth, and how the fans would just love to see these guys in the lineup. But with more and more teams going that way, a guy like Guillermo Jágr, even he was playing and was effective last year while he was playing. But I think Father Time kind of caught up to him as well, and because of the youth and all the speed that's out there. So I know, let's talk about the restricted free agents a little bit. I know you've got a list of some of the people that applied for arbitration today. I know the two big ones on the Canucks roster are Jake Virtanen and Troy Stetcher that are looking for contracts. So why don't you touch on that for a little bit?
All right, so guys, some of the big names have filed for salary arbitration. Well, going with the Canucks, Troy Stetcher has filed for salary arbitration. With Winnipeg, you got Connor Hellebuck and Jacob Trouba. Vegas, you got William Carlson and Colin Miller. With Ottawa, you got Cody Ceci and Mark Stone, which are two big names. Minnesota, Matthew Dumba and Jason Zucker. And I would even throw Brandon Montour with Anaheim. Those would be some of the big names. going with the Canucks with Stetcher. I think he'd be wanting to get around what Ben Hutton and Michael Del Zotto are earning. I think Hutton is $2.8 million and Del Zotto is $3 million. And Stetcher really outplayed both of those guys last year, especially once when he got paired with Alex Edler. His game really went to another level. So I think he'd be around that $3 million mark. The big thing with Winnipeg, with Trouba and Hellebuck, those are two big names that are going to be wanting a lot of money. And to go along with Winnipeg, with other restricted free agents that they need to still sign, is Josh Morrissey, Adam Lowry, Brandon Tanev, and some other guys. So that's a lot of money that they still got to dish out to a lot of guys. To go along, just to let guys know, even though players have signed or have filed for salary arbitration, teams can still look to get new contracts before the salary arbitration is up.
Well, and last year I think there was only two people that held out. We talked about Athanasiou already with Detroit, and I know Josh Anderson and Columbus both held out because they weren't happy with the way the contracts went. But I know arbitration, they typically are able to get things done. It'll be interesting to see if any of them that list you read off was there's a lot of prime players on that list, and it would, I know Jacob Trouba in the past has held out. He's been down this road before, so that he knows what to expect. But it'd be great if most of them get signed before the season starts. I don't like seeing teams shorthanded because of that. Especially if they play the Canucks right off the bat.
And it will be interesting to see what pay raises guys get. Like if you look at William Karlsson with Vegas, putting up 43 goals, 75 points, he was only making $1 million this year. So being the number one center, it's just he should be pushing around $6 million. I would think at least there. And then to go along with the Ottawa situation, it would be interesting to see what Mark Stone will get, because I think he is one of the biggest names, and before he got hurt or whatever, he was over a point a game player, and I think he should be getting around that $6-7 million sort of well, Ottawa doesn't like this, but Bobby Ryan money there. But yeah, I think that would be the last big name there.
Well, I know that might be the holdup in the Carlson trade is, the rumor is that Ottawa's trying to move the Bobby Ryan contract with Carlson. Definitely not. I think I heard he has 5 years left at $7 million a season, which is, I think Bobby Ryan, he's still a great player, but I think he's past his prime. And I kind of wonder sometimes what the GMs are thinking when they sign these players at the time they do, especially with, you're starting to see them get a little bit smarter with term, but there's still some players that are signing crazy contracts with term that the teams look at we could just buy them out. But eventually that's going to bite some teams, I think, and come back to haunt them. So, that's almost everything that we wanted to talk about today. Let's close on one final thought is with the prospect game tonight for the Vancouver Canucks. Who are you hoping to hear great things about in that game? Assuming I know Jonah Gadjevich is not playing tonight. I know he's skated a little bit in practices, but his wrist is not good to go. He's not able to shoot the puck still. I believe Quinn Hughes is playing. He's back after being ill for some of the time earlier this week. Obviously, he's going to be on your list. But outside of Quinn Hughes, who are some of the Canucks that you would be interested in having a look at tonight?
The first one would be Cole Lind. The talk about this, about him being more physically mature and him going down for a few games down in Utica toward the end of the year, and him getting his eyes open to what it takes to be a pro. I like to see how he does. One guy that isn't signed by the Canucks that played for the Victoria Royals last year, Tyler Soy. He was part of their top line in Victoria, and he had 36 goals and 92 points in 66 games for Victoria. And I think he got hurt playing against the Giants in the playoffs in the first round. But he was a really big part of Victoria's season last year.
It's a lot of points for sure. I know I'm excited to see what Quinn Hughes can do, but as long. I've also heard a lot of stuff about Jet Wu and how he can stabilize a really good player like Quinn Hughes or Jack Rathbone. Out of the back end, both those guys have really piqued my interest in how they're performing. Cole Lynn, definitely. Outside of that, I think Petrus Palmu, I'll be excited to see what he can do. Coming, also from Utica and the Finnish Elite League. But we'll touch on that tomorrow. We'll know a little bit about how everybody plays tonight. And just to remind everybody, smash the like button, share this, comment. Let us know what you want to hear about when we bring this to you daily. Again, this is B&B Hockey Talk. My name's Aaron Bloxel, and I'm with Matthew Balzer. And we're going to sign off today. We look forward to bringing this to you every day, and we'll see you guys tomorrow.